Hi, folks. I'm creating this follow-up video due to a couple of questions that I had regarding my previous video from yesterday. I thought long and hard about whether or not I wanted to do this because I kind of got to give out a little bit more information than I want to. Again, I'm not going to try to discuss an entire solve completely, and I'm not giving you all the information that I found out, only the information that's relevant to the topic that I'm discussing right now in this video and what I discussed yesterday. So a couple of people were asking me, well, how did you make the jump all the way over to Bighorn from Yellowstone? And then a couple of people had brought up some stuff that they had seen, in some of these areas in the past and wanted to know why I didn't discuss them. And the reason is the video was already long enough. And two, I really didn't want to get deep into a solution. So I'm just going to briefly go over some of the stuff that was mentioned to me, and again, give out a little bit more information to what I had yesterday, and hopefully this will answer your questions. So first off, here we are. Let me show you the original map, just to keep everything fresh in your mind. This is the map of Yellowstone. Here's Mammoth Springs, or Mammoth Hot Springs. And this is the Grand Loop Road. Okay, it goes all the way around here. This road that cuts across is Norris Canyon Road. And again, these are the exits. Here's the north exit. Here's the west exit, south exit, east exit, northeast exit from the park. Basically, when they first made this a national park, this was the only area that had anything really in the park. As far as structures and stuff that we built, basically the military was sent here to take control, because there were people coming in here and kind of destroying it, and they were coming in and taking parts of it, and it was being over abused, I guess I'll say, right? So they had the military up here and they built this whole area up. So this is the original area in the park. And then, of course, they eventually built this road down and they headed west. But eventually, of course, they added a south exit. The east exit, I'm pretty sure, was the very last one that they did. And this exit was difficult due to the pass and a couple of other reasons that they had. And after they completed it, one of our presidents, I think it was Roosevelt, said that this was the most beautiful drive he ever took along this road. Anyway, that road has a long history to it. So, but counterclockwise is basically the way the exits work. Okay, this road is, again, cuts off. It's actually not part of the Grand Loop. The Grand Loop is this road here. There's a lot of things that I'm going to assume that you would understand by knowing the park or having been to the park or using the park documentation. Some of it you can see in Google Maps or Google Earth. If you put yourself down on there, there are a lot of signs along this road, of course, that describe which areas to head to go where. Like over here, there's signs that'll tell you to go down to the Norris Geyser Basin. And then on this side, they're going to tell you that the Tower Falls, and they're going to discuss Devil's Tower, and they're going to discuss the canyon. Okay, so there are actually signs on this road that'll tell you, canyon, 35 miles, Grand Canyon, 15 miles here, and it directs you through the park. Okay, consider this like the main road in the park. And I'm considering that to be it. Okay. He says begin it. So I'm saying it is sort of like if you were up north on the East Coast and you want to come down to Florida, I might tell you to take 95, which is the turnpike, and that would be it. So, begin it where warm water salt up in New Jersey or whatever, and take it, down, blah, 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 right? So it is the road. So now I have you on that road, and what I'm going to do is give you visuals instead of explicit directions in terms of how Forrest does things. He's not going to say take exit 10 or turn off on London Road. He's going to describe the area. So now that we've seen that, just try to keep this in your head. I'm gonna flip back over to here. I do have a topo map that I can overlay in here, and I'm going to use this a bit later. But I don't want to keep it on because it actually makes things. Well, first of all, I have it set to really high resolution, and it slows things down and it clutters up the display. So unfortunately, you're not going to be able to see the roads. But here we are at Mammoth Hot Springs, and there's quite a few things up here. And again, I don't really want to get into all the details, but you could look at the park documentation yourself. There's a huge history in this area. There's also a lot of names that when you read around here, I included one that'll probably spark some thought into your mind as to things that you'd have read in Thrill of the Chase and how they might be hints to this area. Okay. There's quite a few of them here. The Bunsen Peak, being the Bunsen burner, Sepulchre Mountain. There's just a lot, and I have all of those here, but I'm not going to turn them on because it's just going to complicate things. But anyway, so here we are down on this road. This is a hotel, okay, and basically this is the old base, if you want to call it that. They called this Wash Tub Row back here for the crews that were working, and then these are crew barracks, so on, so forth. Think of it almost like a military base. Now, it's no longer a military base, it's historical here. And this is Capitol Hill, and they actually have a cannon up here, and they shoot cannonballs off during celebrations when they run parades down this road, okay? So this is kind of the main drag in town. So when I'm talking about 5 blocks, Forrest said, I don't think he's talking about West Yellowstone. He can also be talking about both. Here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 blocks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? So this is the main drag in town. And when he's talking about washing his hands and the white cracks and the smell insulted his intelligence and his senses. And he doesn't like brown gravy anymore, blah, blah, blah. Those of you that know this area are going to know that it's one of the largest calcium deposits in the world, I think. And, of course, anybody that owns a house will tell you that when warm water interacts with the minerals in the water, it forms calcium. And that only happens on the hot water side, okay, the warm water parts. Cold water doesn't have a negative interaction with the elements. Hot water does. And that's why this calcium forms, which is the same reason why it also clogs up your pipes. It can clog them almost completely solid and cause warm water to halt. Okay. That would be the science behind it. But anyway, that's just basic stuff. If we were standing up here and I told you to begin it, and we knew that it was the Grand Loop Road, and you're basically going to have 3 choices here. You can take it southeast, okay? You can take it east. If you go east, you're going to go out the north exit, okay? Or you can take it west. Now, there's going to be signs here, 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 definitely over here. And this is going to be the only sign that's going to tell you to go this way to the canyon. Okay, I don't even think they call it the Grand Canyon on the sign because it's assumed. Again, there's probably thousands of canyons here, but the canyon is the Grand Canyon. It's not, the canyons that you're going to find over here or the canyon on a fire hole. This is the canyon. So if you look at green, that would be my path. So he says, okay, begin it where warm water's halt. We jump on it. Okay, so now he has to get us off of it. Remember, we're going to need to get off somewhere. But he said to take it in the canyon down, right? So we're going to follow that road. Okay, here's the first place, that major turn. And this is where I said this is the western terminus to 212. 212 ends here, the west end. If you jumped on here and followed the east, you would end up in Eden Prairie, Minnesota. which is the eastern terminus. That's Highway 212. A lot of people think that that might be warm water salt because 212 is the boiling point of water. Okay. Regardless, I'm not thinking that here. So we're up here. We're at warm water salt. We jumped on here. We're taking it to the canyon down. We get to here. The sign is going to tell you to hang a left to go out the northeast exit, but it's going to say continue straight if you want to get to the canyon. So here we go. We're down the road, down the road, down the road, down the road. Okay, here's another turnoff. This is the Norris Canyon Road. This is the road that I showed here that cuts across the park. Okay, so he's got to get us to not go on that road. So he's saying to take it into canyon down. Well, technically, this is the canyon down here. We haven't reached the canyon yet. So there's going to be signs here that are going to tell you that the canyon falls are up here along with Artist Point and so on and so forth. So now he's got you past that turn on. Okay. Now, just for now, I'm going to tell you, Artist Point, Hayden Point, this is where that famous artist and photographer took a picture, and then they sent artists back there because the photography equipment wasn't great, wasn't color, and they were trying to promote this place. So they got artists to come here. Grafton Tyler Brown was not the first one. He was the first African American artist to come here. Okay. So this, let's say, is our home of Browns. It's here, put in below the home of Brown. Okay, because we've reached our canyon down, right? So now he's telling us we got to put in somewhere. So, and again, there's a lot of stuff you can find out here. This is the picture where Skippy was taken here, so on and so forth. So we're going down, 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 down. Okay, here's our next turnoff. Are we below the home of Brown? Yeah, we are, if you consider this the home of Brown. So let's look further ahead in the poem. This is the fishing bridge. There's a deep, deep, deep history to this area, and up around here, there used to be tons of one-room cabins. And again, they discovered when they were doing construction around here, 2 skeletons. So this is a native Indian burial grounds, basically. The natives, before the current tribes even, when we go back 11,000 years, they were all scared to death of this place. I don't think they would go any further west than this lake because, there's bubbling mud all up around here. There's Old Faithful and everything going on over here just look like hell. And that's the way the Indians described it. And they kind of named a lot of these areas after hoodoos and gods, just weird things when you look back at the lore of a lot of this stuff. And of course, the early explorers that went out here, they picked up the lore from the Indians. That's how a lot of the names came to be. I don't necessarily think that Forrest uses those names. I don't think he names anything. I think he describes it as if he was there, back. He's an explorer and he found these places. Try to pretend you're a 13-year-old kid or you're Lewis and Clark. You're out on a discovery. Okay, so when he describes things, he's going to describe it like that. And the tourists, the way we described that, we used artists over here to try and sell this park, okay, to the American public, get more tourists to come out here. And, eventually they finished the east exit, yada, yada. Anyway, again, I don't want to get into the history. This is huge. You've also heard Fenn mention in Thrill of the Chase that he told his parents that he needed some elbow room when he went looking for Lewis and Clark. Well, it's interesting when there's a document that you can get in the museum here that talks about the history of the fishing bridge, because this is not the original one. Matter of fact, there was 2 other bridges that had been rebuilt twice. One of them was prior to Fenn being born. One of them, I think this one's different than the one that was there when Forrest was there. So it went through major change. But if you read that document, one of the things they talk about is they stopped fishing here because, well, people were overfishing it. And they actually used the word elbow room. It's funny. They said that there was there was no elbow room for casting your line. People were crossing lines. I imagine they were fighting. It was really a mess. They had so many people here. So basically, they banned fishing there. You can't fish there anymore. So now we're on this road. Okay. Now he says from there, it's no place for the meek. Well, he's saying from there, meaning this is not no place for the meek, but from here is, where we're going is going to be no place for the meek. And you can also consider the opposite side, no place for the meek too, because the natives are afraid of everything in here. Okay. Even them. And they're pretty brave people, right? But this place scared the shit out of everybody. So we're on this road now, and it's, it's no place for the meek. The end is ever drawing nigh. Here's the spiral bridge that I was talking about yesterday. This is the road. There's a pull out up here, and you can actually see the bridge right here. You can hike down there, go in there, and you can see it. The old road used to come down this way. Okay. Of course, it doesn't do that anymore now, and it didn't do that since, I actually don't remember when they took this out of service. I'm pretty sure it was before Forrest was born. So we're heading up this. All right, so that the end is ever drawing nigh. There'll be no paddle up your creek, just heavy loads and water high. So water high. All right, let me go up more. Now remember too, right after that, after the fourth stanza, he's telling it why is it that I must go? He's leaving a border here. And you remember this is the park border. It's the exit. And once you cross this border, you're now in the Shoshone National Forest, which was the old timberlands I talked about. Okay. If I back off way over here, this blue border is the eastern border of the Shoshone National Forest. So from here to here, okay. And I'm considering this whole area is no place for the meek. Now, water high, if you keep following this, you got water high because the North Fork of the Shoshone is rapids as you're coming down here. And the other water high you have is, of course, the dam and the Buffalo Bill Reservoir. By description, it's water high. Forrest said a dam is not where warm water's salt, but he never said it can't be water's high, right? So, okay, we're on that road. We left the park. And I want to mention something else that's kind of interesting here. When you come up here, okay, and there's a lot of places I know on this road, and once you leave the park, you can switch over to the Bill Cody Scenic Byway documentation, for example. And the Bill Cody Scenic Byway documentation, along with all the pullouts on this road, are going to describe everything that I'm telling you about. So there, again, is no special knowledge. You can't consider something at a pullout special knowledge when this is an on-the-ground hunt. We're supposed to go there and retrieve a chest. Forrest said that all of the clues are solvable from Google Earth, except the final one, the ninth clue. You actually have to be on site to solve it. So to me, that means you have to see something. Okay. So the most likely thing that you have to see would be a blaze. And I believe that he expects you to gain knowledge when you're at that blaze, and that's going to finish you off. Because remember now, when he says, if you've been wise and found the blaze, look quickly down your quest to cease. All right, so if you stop right there, you found the blaze, okay, and you've been wise, your quest cease. Our quest was to find the blaze. He didn't say, look quickly down and take the chest. He says, if you've been wise and found the blaze, look quickly down your quest to cease. But tarry scant with marble gaze, just take the chest and go in peace. So there's something that you got to do, right? So you're at the blaze. So anyway, right um, when you're coming over here, okay, if you this whole area down here, okay, if you turn down here, there's a road here. Instead of going over this bridge, this is the bridge over the North Fork of the Shoshone River, okay, which is flowing down this way because we're now going downhill. We're up at the high point is over here, okay. So we went up the mountain here. We're at the peak. We're coming down. We crossed over. Now this is kind of funny. Now for it says on page 20, or it's 23 from the Andy and Amos show, something like "Don't piss off the alligator until you cross the river." This isn't necessarily an alligator, but it's a sleeping giant. Okay, and that ski resort, Sleeping Giant, is named after the Sleeping Giant Mountain, which is up here. Okay, so is he telling you here to keep going, stay on this road, cross over the North Stony River? Because now, I mean, yeah, this is thinking like a kid again. Remember, we're a lot of the poem when he's talking about looking out a window, I think he's talking about actually looking out of a car window, like kids do when you're driving. Oh, look at that, look at that. You know, so he's telling you to cross the river before you piss off the giant. If the sleeping giant is the alligator, he now has us on the other side of the river because we're on the road. We crossed. He's telling us stay on the road. So we're following the road. So you know, so that would be a hint. That would be in the book. That would tell us. So now we're on the road. We're driving along. Okay. We start to see the rapids and stuff like that along the river. So there's our water's high. And we're going. First thing I want to mention here, too. And again, I want to say a lot of these areas I've already searched, almost all of them, or my partner's been out there a few times. We didn't find anything. This is the first outdoor church you're going to find, Wayfarers Chapel. There's, of course, a sign here for it when you get there. There's a lot of interesting history about this. This used to actually have a building here, and Bill Cody won that building in a card game, playing poker, and he gave that building to the church. And the church had a building here. That building, I think, was moved into Cody, so the building's not here anymore. But they do have the outdoor chapel here. You can see it. Here's the altar. Over here where I put this mark is a Trinity tree. You could read about Trinity trees. So here's all the benches. Here's the outdoor thing. By the way, we looked in there. We actually went up this way about as far as Forest would go. Looked up around here. Looked up all around here. Nada, nothing. It looked like a good place. This is public property, but I was kind of nervous when my partner went out there because I'm like, I started thinking, did Forrest do that? Did he actually take the chest and put it in a chapel? No, his outdoor church, his church in the mountains. So are we essentially robbing a church? I mean, I really started to feel guilty and say maybe we don't want to take it. But anyway, we went there and looked. There's nothing here. There's nothing anywhere, but feel free to go check it out. It's interesting. This is the first church that you'll find in the outdoor on this trip. So anyway, we could, and I also considered that maybe being wise, and the reason why it would be wisdom and the Trinity tree. A Trinity tree, which they actually have here, has three branches coming out of it, and it's supposed to give you wisdom. That's the tree by definition. And they had pride in that tree. They actually fought to try to keep it, and the foresters went around because they basically cut down trees. They do controlled burnings to prevent huge forest fires, and they didn't want the Trinity tree chopped down. But the Trinity tree's been altered. It may even not be there anymore. It's definitely been altered, though. It no longer has three branches. It's only got two. Somebody lobbed one of them off, or a storm took it off, whatever. I eventually abandoned that idea because I thought that's stupid. Forest is not going to use, a tree as a blaze when a tree could burn down, be cut down, so on and so forth. But again, I'm not going to try to get into solutions here. I'm just pointing out some of the things. And again, there's a lot on this road, and you don't need to do any deep research. So we're coming down the road. Oh, here we go. First thing we see is Chimney Rock, heavy load. These are the heavy loads are the hoodoos. This is like Bill Gorman would walk around with an erection here. Seriously, I mean, there you want to talk about looking at rocks and elephant heads, and I mean, this is it. Okay, Bill's probably been here. Bill, this is Bill's church in the woods. Sorry, Bill. I better not say anything piss you off, get you banned from Facebook. Anyway, so we have Elephant Head Rock, we have Chimney Rock, and we have Henry Ford driving a Model T car. You probably heard of that. Of course, you've heard Forrest mentioning the Model T and Henry Ford and so on. It actually looks like a cartoon almost, this rock up here. Okay, so now we got the Palisades, which is basically a group of rocks that stand almost straight up in the air. Again, they're more heavy loads. Now here's a pullout. Again, there's all information here that you can read, and you could also read it in the guides for the National Forest, the Shoshone Forest, and on the road, and also the Scenic Byway guides. So we have Norton Creek pullout. We have the Norton Creek Spring, which I'm saying would make you wise. This is a RV campground. No tents are allowed up here because this is bear territory. And I can tell you for sure, as a matter of fact, when my partner was going down to the church, when he drove, and he brings the kids with him all the time because they make a kind of a cool adventure out of it. He takes the kids. Most of them, some of them are under 10. Some of them are early teens, maybe a little bit older. And he brings them there, and they basically enjoy it. But when they were going past there was actually grizzlies in the water here. So I'm just warning you now. Even though you're close to the road, this is actually an embankment here. This is down at a lower elevation. This whole area is grizzly territory. In fact, a lot of these places that you'll find here that are ranches, they take people out on hunting expeditions, big game hunting. And my partner's been big game hunting all around these mountains. So considering he's a third generation Wyoming guy, I'm sure he probably knows the area even better than Forrest does. In any case, over here, I don't have it marked. I think it's right here. There's a window. And I don't know if you know what a window rock is, but it's a stone natural thing that comes up, and it's got a hole punched in it. When you're here, you can look back, you can actually see through it, sight it like a window. And we know how Forrest talks about windows. If it's not there, it's over here. I don't remember. I have it marked somewhere else. Let me expand this more. Now we have the Palisades, Newton Creek, Newton Campground. And here's the Blackwater Memorial. Again, it kind of goes north to south. The CCC logo's on this side. This is a road that you can actually drive in. I think this might actually be private property over here. I'm not sure. But you're allowed to go through that because even though it's private property, as long as you stay on the road, you're okay because they have easements to certainly allow firemen and people to get through, and hikers, campers, so on and so forth. If you read this, that's not the only one. When you get up this road along the Blackwater Creek, actually, wait, I might be wrong. That's not private property. This area here is the private property. Well, it's here somewhere. So, and there again, there's the Mommy Cave. Along this road, you'll see, I think, one or two signs where they basically had a staging area to bring the staging area might have been around up here, just where the dirt road ends. It was like a MASH type area where they worked on the men and brought them down so that they could be transported by ambulance to Cody, where if they didn't die in the woods, many of them died at the hospital in Cody. I think 15 men died. 10 of them were, of course, all from Texas. They were all younger than 21. And they were all from an area within 70 miles of Temple, Texas. Anyway, you could find out about that here at the place, right? Now, if you look over here, this is Clayton Mountain. The fire was all up in this area. The monuments that they made for the firemen, and there's two of them. I think you can actually see them on the, yeah, you can definitely see this one. That's one of them. There's two of them up there. There's one, another plate on the ground. That may actually be up in this area. But there's no way that Forrest would have done this hike. I mean, you could drive to here, get out of your car, but just looking at the elevations and the grade, there's no way that Forrest would make that walk. And I mean, even if he did, there's no way he would do it there and back and there and back to make two trips from his car. It's just not possible. There's no way. So we never went all the way up here because there's no way Forrest would have done that. If he was going to hide it here, he would have hit it somewhere along here. Okay. And I don't think he would hit it right back here. But I mean, we looked all around the monument. We didn't find anything. We still got some areas we're looking at around here, but of course, I'm not going to get into that. But anyway, the idea here now, well, before I show you that, let me go a little bit further. This is the border, okay? So when Forrest talks about two borders, he went to borders twice. This is the first. He's entering a border there, and he's exiting the border here. Okay, so now he's out of the national forest. You're no longer in the wood. You're not in the national forest when you get to this area. But there's a lot of interesting things. So some of the other ones I want to point out to you, and I'm sure I'm not the only one who knows about him. You know who Thor is, and Forrest prayed to Thor. So when I talked about his father burning a candle at both ends, if he prayed to Thor when his father was the one he should have been praying to, this is the left end of the candle. The right end of the candle is over at the other place. This here is interesting. We have a group of rocks, and the whole group together is called the Holy City. And the reason why it's called the Holy City is a photographer noticed that it looks like a picture of Jerusalem. It's very odd, but I mean, again, Bill would definitely go nuts here. He'd have a heart on it and probably pass out, lack of oxygen to the brain, especially if he's bringing any of that weed from Colorado. Anyway, that's the Holy City. Look at some of the names of these rocks: Old Woman, Cabin Rock, Wooden Slipper Rock, okay, Goose Rock. You know how Forrest is talking about the old biddies, and could they be at the Old Woman cabin? And instead of saying cross the road, he's giving you hints about crossing the creeks, or he's telling you that the old woman's on the other side of the road, and the road being the river. Another thing I want to point out is there's June Creek. June Creek is one of these creeks, okay? If Forrest was up here at the Blackwater Creek and he was looking down at June, which remember his father wouldn't allow, if Thor is his father's looking up this way, anytime Forrest looks down, his father would see him looking down on his sister. So he wouldn't look down. Again, you got to kind of think like a kid, use your imagination. That's the way I think Forrest did the book and a lot of the things that he writes. So that's those. Across the street, we have Hanging Rock, Camel Rock. Now, this road here is interesting. This is the Bill Cody Ranch. And actually, it's owned by one of Cody's ancestors now. It's private property, but you could walk. I think it's there. Yeah, you could walk around it. I don't think Forrest would make this walk, but you can't drive on this road because it's all private property. And the other thing is, it's a ranch. A lot of people come here and they go on horseback riding up into the mountains all over here. So it's a pretty well-known, pretty popular place, but it's related to Bill Cody. So is this area right here, Pashaka Teepee Resort. That's also related to Cody. So, Anyway, down here, I just want to point out one other thing. Again, this is the Laughing Pig Rock. You remember how Forrest said he was laughing on his way back to his car? He says, I walked back to my car and I laughed out loud and I said, Forrest, Ben, did you really do that? Um, and yeah, before I go on, yeah, we searched this area, searched all up around here, searched on the opposite side. We went up pretty far, farther than Forrest would go. And I want to warn you, if you do go here, right around, I think I was here. I don't remember exactly. Right around here, there's a trail. Okay. There's no trail over here. But when you get back around here, a trail, you'll see it. You follow a trail and you got to cross back and forth across the stream. You'll get to a point where there's like an overhang of rock. Okay. And underneath there, it was kind of interesting, but a few feet away was a bear feeding area. Grizzly bears, I don't know. There was no bears there, but there was a bunch of animal spines and skeletons and carcasses. It was absolutely a bear feeding spot. So this is bear country. Be very, very careful about going up in these areas. And I'll tell you what, when you may not realize it, but when you get back, okay, from the road, there's a lot of traffic on this road, awful lot of traffic, because it's one of the main thoroughfares to get into the park. And it's also a main historical road that took people from the east to the west through Yellowstone. Okay. So at least when they finished this road, then they didn't have to go up the north way. They would come down this way. Anyway, when you're back only even about this far, you can't hear shit. You don't hear any cars from that road. But there's a lot of interesting stuff on that road. And, to be honest, there's still some areas we're looking at. We looked at many places on here. We never found anything yet. So if you want to, have at it. But just again, be careful. And there's no way I would ford this river. Don't even attempt it. If you have to get there, use one of the two bridges. But just be extremely careful going up into these areas. There is grizzlies, I guarantee you. And a lot more than that. Okay. So we're back here now, back to the south. Now, and by the way, if you're following this road, once you pass the Laughing Pig Rock, that's the last hoodoo. This here is the wall, the Chinese wall. Okay. But this whole area is all flat. And it's all private property and so on. Some of it is all the way back here is all private property. All up around here, I don't think the chest is anywhere out in this area. There are some pot spots that we looked at. I don't think it's there. It could be in the national forest. It could be over here. Maybe we missed it. I don't know. But just be careful going around here because these people don't like it when you go on their private property. So if you want to get on the other side over here, you might want to be careful. That's all I'm going to say. Don't just trot around through the woods. But that's the last of the heavy loads. So you got heavy loads and water high. Well, once you go through Wapiti or Wapiti, you're at the water's high. You're at the Buffalo Bill Reservoir. Buffalo Bill Dam is over here. Okay. Coulter's Hell is here. And be careful around a lot of these pits. Some of them, you'll see other searches have been there. There's cars in them and just, But I can tell you right now, and I don't remember who the guy was on Dalles, but he went there and the owners pulled up with guns. They were on an ATV and they had guns. And then another one went and they came up in a pickup truck, guns. They didn't shoot at him, but they told him to get the hell out of here. They do not like fence searchers around here. That's what I get out of it anyway. So, there's a lot of interesting stuff around here. There's a cave over here. But Again, I'll leave that for you to decide. That isn't really what I wanted to talk about here. I kind of got sidetracked with some of these rocks because people brought them up to me. And yeah, this is Bill Gorman area to the T, man. I'm sure he's been there, and he's prayed to Thor. All right, so back on this now. So we've been wise. We found the blaze. Okay, we've been wise, and here's our blaze. We look quickly down, and I think Forrest is expecting us to see something. He's telling you to refer to your documentation. On the ground now, you look at your documentation. We've been wise. We found the blaze. Look quickly down. Our quest has ceased. Now, a blaze marks the beginning of a trail. When you find the beginning of the trail, you follow the trail to the end, and then you'll reach your destination. Now, when you look at this blaze is there to memorialize the 15 men that died. And those 15 men died up here. There's blazes up where they died, but Forrest didn't go here. So when you research it, you're going to find these two blazes at least, and then at least one more here. That's three, and this is the fourth. This is the main blaze, like 70 feet long. Okay, you have to put two and two together and say, okay, this is obviously about the Blackwater Memorial. So when you read about the Blackwater Memorial, especially in the byways and in the National Forest guides, you're going to find out that there's one more place for this. And certainly it's going to stand out like a sore thumb because that place is where they memorialize the guy is from Texas. And we all know where Ben's from, right? There's a very good chance that his father either taught or was the principal for one of those 17 to 21-year-olds that died. And I believe that might be why Forrest made a fake ID and got into the CCC to kind of help out. He felt bad. Or the other speculation is Forrest and Donnie, when they were 7, 8, 9 years old, whatever, or his brother, they were tagging along with Skippy. They actually started the Blackwater Creek fire. And I don't think Forrest would ever do anything like that on purpose. But you start a fire, shit gets out of hand, you run, it's storming and stuff. Remember, this fire is actually documented to be started by lightning in a storm. Well, what was the name of Forrest's horse? Lightning. What was happening when Forrest went out and looking for Lewis and Clark? He talked about storms. He talks about a fire. He talks about a map, and he says that the map came in handy later, but he doesn't really specify what he did with it. Okay. I don't want to get into them crazy, conspiracy theories, but who knows? Maybe, out of remorse, you felt bad. Could you imagine that? I mean, I can't. Shit. So you go back and you sign up and you actually help build the memorial we're about to talk to now. So again, this is a big leap of faith. But if you read the document for the National Forest and for the byways, it tells you. So we're on that road now, and we're going to keep following it. We're still on the Bill Cody byway where you see the screen. We're still on it. Here's the bench, emblem bench. Father on the banco. Banco's a bench. Anyway, here's Great Bull. It makes a turn now. This same road. And by the way, this is a historical road. You can read the history behind it. It goes through Basin, goes through Manderson, Washakie 10, and then it gets down to Warland, and it continues. Okay. Now the Fens, when they traveled, especially when he says he stopped over here at Hell's Half Acre, they probably followed this road. They went up past Wedding of the Waters, past Thermopolis, and they might have stopped up in this area. Or they might have continued, to Gray Bull, and then they go to their destination, which for the first 7 years was the fishing bridge. One thing I want to point out when I'm right up here is over here, there's a famous one-room schoolhouse. Anyway, so is there another leap of faith here? We have another byway document, and that's for Highway 16, the Cloud Peak byway. And that goes from Orland to Buffalo. Now, there's a lot of hints of Buffalo. one of them being the Ferris wheel, um, which I'm not going to get into that again. But anyway, you read that, and again, you learned back here that you're now looking for tent sleep. So you're going to get to Orland. Now we're going to switch to the other documentation. We're on our way to tent sleep. Okay. So we get up here to tent sleep, and here's the memorial. Right here is 242 miles from our Warm Waters Hall. Okay. This is the tent sleep reservoir and dam. This is the actual memorial on the side of the road, right here. And then there's a sign over. The sign might be over here, I think. I don't remember. There's also a sign there, the sign I showed you guys. And you can see down to here. That sign that's over here actually describes this area, observation point. If you went to this memorial now, we look down on it, and the first thing we're going to say to ourselves is, okay, there's no chest. And one funny thing I'll point out to you is the top of this thing, it's actually lobbed off. There's a hole on the top, and it goes down maybe 6, 7 inches, and there's some glass in there. And the glass that's in there is actually from well, I can't say that. It's very old. It may be from 1937 when this monument was made. I don't know. But there's no chest in it. There's no chest around here that we could find. We might have missed it. There's no chest, obviously, over here. In some of these areas where we looked, again, I'm not going to get into the details. There might be some stuff that's, of course, at Meadowlark Lake. So when you start looking around and examining your environment here, you're going to notice a few things. You're going to notice the dam. You're going to find out about the dam, which is also on the document for this road, along with this. You're going to find out this is a ski resort. And interesting enough, to look at some of the names of the runs. This is all private, public property. You can go here. Of course, there's ski lifts here and down here. You can also come all around here. Nothing's stopping you. But the first thing you're going to see is what used to be called High Park Lookout. And until they changed it to James T. Sabin. And they did that to again, because they used to memorialize James T. Sabin over here. It used to be the James T. Sabin Ranger Station. Now it's a Tyrell Work Center. And this area was purchased by somebody. Was it Forrest Fenn? I don't know. I'm not going to get into trying to look at who owns the private property, because Forrest is not a stupid man. We know that if he did use a proxy item, he did it with a hidden name. And there's no way you're going to find it. It's very easy for somebody to hide it. They do it all the time. And even if you knew that Forrest Fenn did own it, what are you going to do? Do you know where on the property it is? No. You actually have to solve the poem and get the directions to the chest, because otherwise you're not going to know where it is. A matter of fact, in the proxy might be the actual directions to the final location in a sealed jar. You don't know, but you're going to have to solve the poem either way, so don't bother. But anyway, they moved it. They didn't move it. They sold this land, and as a result of that, they renamed this tower from High Park Lookout to James C. Sabin Lookout. So we see that, and we think to ourselves in the poem, okay, Terry, okay, we've been wise, we found the blaze. Now we're definitely at the last blaze. So we tower scan with marble gaze again. Boom, we see this. Immediately in our mind, we go, wait a minute. What do firemen do in those towers? They tarry scan with marble gaze. Inside of here, there's an Osborne device. Okay, an Osborne device is a table with measuring equipment on there, where they can basically figure out what radial or what direction from here the fire is, and then they can kind of estimate the distance this way along that radial where the fire is. That's done with the Osborne device. And I think Forrest hints at that when he talks about being in his room. This would actually be his room. and he used to play around with the BB gun, and he would go out and he would hunt meadowlarks, and he knew that the sight was bent, so he had to adjust the sight, and he knew how much to adjust it to actually hit the meadowlark. Well, he's basically, I think, hinting at the Osborne devices that are in these things. He's hinting at the tower. This tower was built in 1942. Was it built by Forrest when he was 12, 13 years old? Because he felt bad about the fire? Or maybe he did it just because his father knew? Or, Forrest or his older brother, they knew the 17-year-old, or there was a younger one. Actually, they did have a younger kid. And that one either died a year or two before this one died at the fire. One of the guys had a younger brother that died either a year before or the year after this fire from some kind of sickness. So Forrest may have just came here to do that and did it in his name. When Forrest was here and his brother was doing the work, as you can see all these boulders. I mean, that video I linked to, you watch it, it blows you away. I mean, talk about hiding spots all around here. This, by the way, is 200 feet radius from here. This one's 500 feet. When you're up in this tower and then you're looking, there's so many hiding spots. You could probably spend weeks here. But you're two things. One, I think that the poem leads you precisely to the chest. I don't think there's a reason to be wandering around a large area. So obviously something's wrong with the ending. What we had thought at the time was that you would be on top of this tower. You would see something when you're on your way up that Forrest might have made in 1942 or somebody else made, and they ain't going anywhere. Another interesting thing about this tower is it has a basement or a small storage room. It's pretty cool. There's just a couple of odd and end tools inside of there. You can get in. There's no chest. I didn't think the chest would be anywhere close to the structure, although we did look. I would think it would be somewhere off the trail on the way up, or somewhere out on the edges. You're not going to go out on this edge, pretty steep cliff, but yeah, I mean, we didn't find anything that we missed. Did we search all of these trees down there? No, we didn't. And there's a pond down here. I forgot why I had that marked. This is that other outdoor church. You can't easily see it here where the benches are and stuff, but you can see online pictures if you search for the name of the church. I don't really know who owns it, but it's not private property. You can go there. They go there to take wedding pictures, stuff like that. And again, this is the ski lift. Okay, I think you can see it when you. Yeah, here it is. Okay, there's another one too, bunny lift down somewhere over here, I think. And the lift houses. So yeah, but that's how we made the jump from the first mile to last, because what we did was we found the blaze, and the blaze was over here, the big monument. And while on the ground, using these pamphlets from these guides from the National Forest, of course, when you get off of this byway, you switch to the other byway documentation. And then when you get up into the Bighorn Mountains, you can use the Bighorn Guide. But that's how we made that leap of faith. This is tied to that. And when Forrest says his dad's up in the clouds looking down on him and he burns the candle on both ends, could he be talking about here's one end and the other end is way over there in the Shoshone Forest? Who knows? This is Cloud Peak. I think that's the highest peak in Bighorn. And if you look it up, matter of fact, let me see if I could do it here. There's row 4, block 23. Row 4, block 23, of course, is where Forrest's father's buried in Temple, Texas. Well, if you go to row 4, block 23 of this PLSS area, his father's up there, in your mind, looking down on him. burning a candle on both ends. I think that's pretty much it. So that's how we made the leap of faith from here all the way to here. I think that's the reason why he's saying you got to be on the ground. When you get to the blaze, and it's clear again, he says, if you've been wise and found the blaze, so quickly down your quest to cease. Our quest then was a quest to find the blaze. So the poem only leads you to the blaze initially. So you get to that blaze, tarry scant with marvel gaze. Okay, you learned about it. So now we followed that blaze trail to the end, where the first 10 men died, and the last blaze in Wyoming for that memorial, and we're here now. Okay, and I should say the last one that would even be in the wood. We're back in the wood again now too. Okay, and we're in an area that qualifies. It's in the map. Everything qualifies. It's public access. He could easily have done it here. And like I said, you look at that video, and it's definitely Fenny. So that's how we're here. Don't forget, you still got 2 more stanzas left in the poem, and they're not just there for looks, and they're not just there for legal reasons, like A Gypsy's Kiss said. They're there because he's telling you what to do. On the book part of it, I'll tell you that much. Why do you think he says, so listen all and hear me good? He's telling you what to do with the words in the thrill of the chase. Because again, he's going to describe stuff in an abstract, he's going to use an analogy to paint a picture of the final place in your mind to tell you where to go. Our quest was to find the blaze. We found the blaze. We're at the end of the blaze now. Terry Scout Marble Gaze. We're not done. Now we got to go ahead and get the chest. And in order to get the chest, got to figure out what the last 2 mean, and also what the first stanza means. I said it means to refer to the book, but obviously in the real world, where the chest is, it's not in text. It's a physical place that you have to go to. So anyway, I hope this answers your questions. My God, I don't even want to look at how long it was, but anyway, enjoy your week and have a great time. Don't get too drunk. Bill, trying to get banned from Facebook anymore. Yeah, have a good time, everybody.